All right, flat
Hey guys,
earthers
welcome back
versus
to
scientists. Let's get into the juicy shit.
the incontrovertible evidence. I would definitely go back. Who wants the ridiculing?
I'm always open to having a discussion with someone who is holding a wrong belief like this.
Wrong.
I'm not. The evidence is so much.
Nobody wants to be a flat earther, but if you showed me incontrovertible evidence, I would definitely go back. Who wants the ridicule?
Where do you want me to get from the discussion with the other side?
I'd like to tear them to pieces.
I'm Jim Underdown, Executive Director of the Center for Inquiry West in Los Angeles and the chair of the CFI Investigations Group.
I'm Spencer Marks, one of the senior members of the CFI Investigations Group, Science Advocate.
I am Marina Yeri. I'm a theoretical physicist, and I'm with the University of Irvine.
I am Wendell Walton. I am a Chief Learning Officer for a young startup.
I'm Shelley Lewis. I'm a graduate of West Point, critical thinker, and jumped out of airplanes.
My name is Dan Glatman. I work as Dan the Waterman in the drinking water filtration industry, and I'm a truth seeker.
The earth was created by a higher power.
Well, I've been a Christian for 30 years. You have to take it literally. Like, for example, in Isaiah, when it talks about how the earth is like a clay wax seal that's stamped with upturned edges, that's just not some fancy story. That's a simile. It is like.
Right? Absolutely. And in Isaiah it talks about too, and I'm a Christian, he who sits upon the circle of the earth. There's a difference between a circle and a ball.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
If you look at the original Hebrew, it means disc. There's over 200 scriptures in the Bible that point to a flat earth.
Bruh.
Sort of like the God of the gaps. Once, people used to believe that lightning was God's wrath and throwing these lightning bolts, but once we understood it was a natural process, God shrank a little bit more because now we couldn't attribute those lightning bolts to God. We had to attribute that to the real science. And the other thing, the point about the Bible specifically for me is, why is that one particular text the correct one? You choose to believe that, and that's fine, but there's so many other writings and so many other books, so why weren't they correct? Why is just the Bible correct?
Well, what you'll find in a lot of these ancient religions is they're all flat earth religions. All their cosmology goes back to being a flat earth with an enclosed system. So it's not just the Bible that
She
teaches
looks
this.
crazy. Like, look at her eyes. Does she blink? Is she even blinking at you? No. It's just because she's trying to inject the crazy directly into your eyes.
It's many different religious books.
So one problem I have is to trying to explain phenomena happen in nature by holy books. Those are religious books. Those are not books of science. And it is wrong to infer or deduct scientific readings out of those books.
My name is Wendell. I am a logical, biblically based, and scientific flat earther. I didn't start out, and no one starts out as a flat earther, but I had a lot of questions. So I actually got to the point where I had to go out and put my own eyeballs on it. So we went out to an observation at Salton Sea, and things just didn't add up down there. So we've gone back probably a dozen times, and I can guarantee you that there is no curvature over distance.
Yeah, there is.
The internet has played an important role in confirming my view of this topic.
That's the problem.
Well, that's the problem.
We have the advantage of information today that's outside of channels 2, 4, and 7 and the few networks that are corporately owned. It's pretty easy to say YouTube isn't research, but when you spend enough time, you're picking up quite a bit. And with the discussion groups, panels, we've gone against opposition. We've opposed ourselves. Surprisingly enough, flat Earth is its own worst enemy. So it's not that easy for us to come to consensus. And we find that consensus is orchestrated and not actually scientific in any way.
Okay, this is at the core of the issue of why there are so many flat earth believers out there right now. The problem is The information from someone who decides to start a website or produce a YouTube video is not reliable. When I have a toothache, I go to a dentist. When my car breaks down, I go to a mechanic. When you have questions about cosmology, you should go to an astrophysicist, you should go to a physicist, you should go to people who have spent years and years studying these ideas, not some 6-minute YouTube video. There is a percentage of people that if they saw a YouTube video that was not within their scientific chops to refute on the face of it, would believe anything out there.
One of the things I will say is NASA.gov has their own documents out there that we get to vet, which is through the Freedom of Information Act. And would you agree that NASA documents, if they're on display, that we should be able to go and research inside there?
NASA is not proving that the Earth is flat.
Well, they say it in 14 of the
you
documents.
should read what NASA says, and you should listen to what
I
NASA
would
says.
love to see your NASA evidence that the Earth is
It's
flat.
only their contradictory issues
Okay,
that
let's
bring
see.
us here.
We're all familiar with the Earthrise photo, right? The Earth is rising over the moon. We're all familiar with it. That's a NASA. You can go out to NASA's site. You can download the original, right?
I already know what you're going to ask.
So you bring up the luminance on it, and you can see where it's cut out and pasted there.
They're showing us doctored images that are clearly doctored. The blue marble is a very famous image from 1972. When you talk to the artist from NASA, his name is Robert Simon, he talks about exactly how it was created from data, and it's not a photograph whatsoever. He added
what?
clouds.
Let me explain.
He added
Hold
a
on.
highlight of the
If
sun.
you take, on your phone, most phones have that panoramic image. When you do that, you're taking a series of pictures, and the phone cleverly stitches
I'm
that
just
together.
saying how it's
Hold on.
presented. It's
Hold on.
presented as a real
So when
photograph.
NASA takes real photos and they either clean them up for color or they stitch them together so it's one large image, it doesn't mean they're CGI.
You're talking about composites.
God, this guy
I'm
thinks
what
he
you call a
fucking knows
globe
everything.
denier. You could even get me into a virtual construct if I can't find the borders myself.
What shape would you say you think the Earth is?
It appears to me to be a stationary plane, as opposed to the vastness of infinity of space. I would find it to be an ice plane where we have a localized sun and our environment thrives there. These particular people have misled us on television. This is a brilliant opportunity to speak. We've been suppressed, censored by mainstream media. Alternative media is just a thing of beauty for me.
Oh, bruh. What?
I view the other side as uneducated.
I'm running.
They think we are
I'm
uneducated.
running for this.
Well, they certainly think they're educated.
And they're following quite a bit of
They certainly
the
think they're
university system, what we
educated.
call scientism.
Right, scientism.
Obviously, is the belief in what's written with physical properties, not theories of any kind. We're using actual measurements that are calculated not by our guidelines, but the guidelines of science as we know it. I can only hope they're uneducated as opposed to disingenuous.
Well, that's the other thing too, because we know that at least on a large scale, the government has been disingenuous, and they're pushing a narrative,
Not
right?
that they're undereducated, but they, instead of looking at evidence and letting the evidence guide to where the ultimate conclusion is, they start with a conclusion and then they try to cherry pick evidence to support their pre-drawn conclusion. They cast away all the bits of evidence that actually is contrary to their belief system.
I think that you're very well educated as well as you are, Jim. But-
Certainly Ali is. He's
and-
probably
and
got the best education of
yeah,
all of us.
Exactly, and he paid for it too. But more and more professionals are coming on board. They're starting to question their reality. So the thing of it is once you start to really take a hard look at the evidence, people end up becoming flat earthers.
What are you hoping to get from the discussion?
I'm hoping to be able to tell our side of the story from the inside out. So many times, flat earthers are depicted from the outside in, and I want to be able to share with others empirical data that proves the earth is not what we've been told.
I used to believe that science was after the truth, right? We all just want to know what the truth is. Science has been trying so hard to divorce itself from the idea of a creator, right?
This is my big issue with science, scientific approach and non-scientific approach. You are absolutely right. In science, we are after the truth. And we are hoping by each day we're getting closer and closer to the truth. We never get there. Never.
Well, I know that's true for you. And
No, that's a science. That's you guys. You think you do have the truth. Now let's look at the evidences. As you were mentioning, you do have the conclusion. Let's find the evidences. Science doesn't work that way.
That's not
Well,
true.
that's not what
That
we-
is not
Well,
true.
you are
matter of
saying
fact,
No.
you are
you could-
referring to Jesus, who many billions of people do not believe, including myself.
And many more billions do.
So what?
So who's right?
Of course, I can.
So
When you say that we start with a conclusion and then try to match everything to make it work,
You
like,
literally
that
do.
to me is how you isolate gravity. If gravity
We
is
don't
an
have to-
assumption, you show me in the scientific method how you isolate gravity.
Place to stop. Let's cool off
Yeah, sure.
and reset.
Fallacy here. There is
Not a
difference.
fallacy.
I'm sure it is.
Go
See,
ahead.
you were talking about a government. Now you're talking about an agency of the
NASA.gov.
government. But this agency is scrutinized by thousands and thousands of scientists around the globe. You are dealing with smart people, believe me. You are
I
dealing
don't
with
deny-
smart people.
I don't deny that.
So it is very hard to do that. Once or twice, maybe. Not for the all time.
Raise your hand if you think we went to the moon.
What is the proof? Hundreds and hundreds of pounds of moon rocks and dust. And we have distributed those freely to PhD scientists around the world. And not one of those geologists has said, what is this?
Been
This is
proven to
some-
be fake.
And also
Yes.
and collected on the ice in Antarctica
Yeah,
and in the Arctic as
absolutely.
well. Those are collected. You don't have to go to the moon to get moon rocks. As a matter of fact, all U.S. Air Force photography prior to 1958
God
shows
damn
a
it.
flat Earth. Only NASA shows
That's
a
not
sphere.
true.
That's
That is absolutely not
true,
true.
Jim. I wouldn't lie to you.
And the other bit of-
NASA's lying to you, my
the
friend.
other bit of proof
Not myself.
is we have a laser retroreflector on the moon.
Yeah.
That we're using
So,
now.
We still use to this day.
It's sitting there.
You can find to the inch how far away the moon
No
is.
pictures of home.
That only is there. By the
No,
way,
there are
My
not.
question to you is, why? Why would all these honest, hardworking people perpetuate this massive fraud? Why would they do this?
What's the benefit of doing
Okay,
that?
the benefit of it, they make $52 million a day. Follow the money.
No, the little
Follow
guy,
the money.
the little
They
guy.
That's what,
make
then when you say,
$52 million
okay.
a
didn't
day.
start out that way. And NASA was
Oh,
not
she's
founded-
got all the answers, bruh. Hold on.
Make $52 million a day. Follow the money.
No, the little
Follow
guy,
the money.
the little guy.
That's what, then when you say all, okay?
But it didn't
She
start
said
out
that
way.
shit
And
already.
NASA was not founded to prove the Earth was a globe. It had nothing to do with the way they were founded.
Well, if you go and study
Are
the
you
whole-
sure?
Yeah, positive.
Really?
Yes. Somebody has to be a voice for reason, and somebody has to be a voice for truth. It would be a fantasy to believe that I would change anybody's mind from the other three. However, if there's somebody sitting on the fence, and this is the first introduction to this debate, perhaps they'll hear the reasonable voice and say, "Yeah, that makes more sense than having this pizza-shaped Earth." For me, I think the correct way to do any kind of investigation or to examine things is by literally putting yourself in that mindset of the other person. So I do that. I disagree with your position, but I completely understand.
If it's crossplay,
your
I'm down to
perspective
play
of
with you,
what you're
Pixie.
saying.
The co-op in my game.
The trouble I have understanding your perspective is, in the modern world, unless you live in a cave somewhere, you have to believe in science implicitly. I met a flat earther, a young woman who said, I don't trust anything that science does. And that's a problem because human beings can't replicate the whole body of science every single generation. At some point, you have to trust what's already been discovered and proven and move on to the next thing. Otherwise, we're not going to advance at all. I mean, when you turn that key ignition in your car, you expect the car to start out
And not blow up.
and not blow up because science puts you in that position. So it's really hard to understand how people would know in their hearts that science achieves wonderful things and then just jumping ship when it comes to this other issue.
I would say, one great thing about science is its predictability. Let's for some moment, for a short moment, assume that your model, this flat Earth model, is correct. I don't know, what does it buy for us? What does it predict for us? So my question for you guys would be, next time, bring me something from your theory, your model, that you can predict something which the globe Earth model cannot predict. Then I would change my mind.
I would just say that don't believe anything that I've said. You got to do your own research. And I think what you'll find is that you'll see that a puzzle piece doesn't fit. And the only way you're going to do that is if you put your own eyeballs on it.
I don't blame people for being skeptical. I'm skeptical about a lot of different things. I applaud that instinct in you. But you have to go beyond just not believing in something. Ask the hard questions. Ask what qualifies a YouTuber, a book author, anywhere else you're getting this information. What qualifies them to make wide-ranging comments about the shape of the Earth?
Thank you. I'm all with.
Ollie, it was nice to meet you.
I'll get a hug too.
Almost neighbor.
I wouldn't be hugging these people, bro. I don't know. You might get
Thank
likes
you guys
from
for watching this
Homegirl
episode of Middle Ground.
or Tubby over there. Damn.